Welcome back to 2022 Hart Conference Softball Media Day. We're going to head up to Dubuque, Iowa, and talk to Clarke University's head coach, Garland Shirley. Coach Shirley, thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing like most coaches, out hitting the recruiting path, and decided to pull over and make sure I had a chance to take part in this media day.
No, we appreciate that you did. A lot of excitement around the program. How's the preseason looking so far?
It's looking pretty good. It's different because, the last couple of years we had to deal with a lot of things that didn't have anything to do with softball. So it feels good to kind of get back to, just training and preparing for the season like normal. So right now I'm really happy with what we're doing in the classroom. I'm happy with what we're doing on the softball field. So I'm excited about it.
Now, the weather's I'm down in Kansas City. It's been a little milder. How have you been able to get outside much up in Dubuque?
We haven't been able to get outside at all in Dubuque, other than just walking in the door. We have, we have an indoor facility, so we get a lot of work in over there. So we've been focusing on the things that we can control and getting as much work in as possible. So right now, I feel like we're ahead of where we've been in the years past.
Great. Tell the folks a little bit about your background. How did you get into softball coaching, and how did you make your way to Clarke?
Okay, so I've been coaching for 20 plus years. For me, I started coaching in general, wrestling. I have a wrestling background. I coached football. I've done a little bit of everything. But like a lot of people, I had daughters that played softball a long time ago, and I started to really get serious about coaching softball when I was actually coaching wrestling. I was a assistant wrestling coach at West Des Moines Dowling Catholic, and they had some of the best coaches, in the industry in Iowa high school wrestling. And I had a conversation with one of the wrestling coaches there, the legendary Bob Dara, and he was somebody that never wrestled in his life. And so, I was really getting into coaching travel ball, softball at that time. And I asked him, I said, how did you become so successful as a wrestling coach when you never wrestled before? And, his response was, because I was always afraid I was going to lose to somebody that knew more than I did because I didn't wrestle. So it kind of just instilled in me that the education side of things was so important, so from that point forward, I went to as many clinics and camps as I could go to, books, resources from other coaches and things like that, so I just really fell in love with the education of softball, so I coached a really successful travel team. It was called MSA softball in the Midwest for a long time. Then I coached high school softball at Van Meter High School and took them to their first ever state tournament back in 2012, I think it was. From there, I went to Ankeny Centennial and was their first head softball coach. I had the pleasure of working with Kendall Lindeman, who was the great hitter, catcher, and went on to Florida. And at the same time, I was coaching college softball too, though. So AIB was an NAIA college that was used to be in the same conferences like Clarke University and Grandview. They closed after 2 years of softball. I went to Marshalltown Community College and coached there for 3 years. And then after that, I found my way over to Clarke.
Fantastic. I mean, athletes are athletes, right? With sport is somewhat irrelevant.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. That's true.
Let's talk about some of those athletes and talk about the season upcoming. What excites you about this year's squad?
To be honest with you, what excites me about this year's squad is that nobody knows anything about us. Over the last couple of years, I started at Clarke, 4 years ago, and we got a good start. We were building because I got hired in August. So, that's a little bit beyond the recruiting kind of calendar for that year. But the next year we were in really good position to do well, and then COVID shut everything down. And it didn't just shut things down from a competition perspective, but it shut things down from a recruiting perspective for us as well. So essentially last year was like our first year all over again. So what really excites me is the fact that we had a chance to go out and recruit some solid players, bring them in. Our 2022 class looks phenomenal right now. We're already have a good jump on 2023. The people that are in the program now understand our expectations. The culture is moving in an absolute positive direction. Skill levels increased by tenfold. And so, just when you build a program, you have to build the expectations and the culture as well. And so if nothing else, we've been able to do that over the last couple of years. And so we're in a place now where with consistency in our coaching staff and some returning players, we're in position to start doing some really good things in this conference.
Tell me a little bit about what you've got going on in the circle and some of the pitchers that you've got lined up for this season.
Okay. So we've got 4 pitchers that at this point I would call our primary pitchers. We have 7 pitchers on the roster. We have a pitcher that's a senior. Her name's Clarke, who primarily played a lot of first base for us in the past, but she was kind of a diamond in the rough. She pitched for a long time in high school, went to DMAC, played first base over there. But when she came to us a couple years ago, we were in that transition period where we didn't have a lot of pitching. So she moved back to the position of pitcher and has really come along. She's looking really strong this year. So we have Maddie Wallace. Maddie Wallace is a kid that's from Freeport, Illinois. She played junior college at Kankakee Community College. She's a really strong pitcher. She's going to really help our pitching staff. And then we got a kind of a surprise addition this year, which was a local standout, Mallory Huseman. And Mallory's going to make a world of difference for us this year. Excellent control, has a lot of pitches that really move. So she's going to add just a whole new element to our pitching staff. And then we also have a freshman that came in from the Des Moines area. Her name is Eris Tyler, who, even though she's a little bit younger, she has a lot of good control, a lot of movement on her pitches. And it'll be a good situation for her to come in and develop when we have 3 other strong pitchers on our staff as well. So we expect good things from our pitching staff this year.
Now, obviously, with all the indoor work, you guys have probably been hitting quite a bit. What excites you this season about your offensive potential?
It's going to sound strange, but in the past, we kind of lived and died off of the home run. So one of the things that excites me about this team is we don't have those swing for the fences players right now. We have a lot of line drive hitters and a lot of speed. So for me, that's the type of offense that I think really drives a good softball program. We can get some good speed on bases and we have people that can hit the gaps. So with that being said, we're talking about speed at first that can, score from first because we've got that type of speed right now. So a little bit more dynamic offense than we had in the past, not quite as much power, which, our hitters in the past they could always surprise you at any minute and, change the way a game was going. But to have those consistent gap hitters, I think it's going to really help us this year.
We're wrapping up our conversation with Clarke University head coach Garland Shirley. Coach Shirley, I'm going to kind of send you some rapid fire questions here to wrap up our talk. Best place to eat in Dubuque?
Texas Roadhouse.
Texas Roadhouse. I got you.
Yeah.
What's on the menu there that's your go-to?
Steak
and potatoes.
Steak.
Yeah. I love it. Looking at some of your earlier answers, it really sounds like a lot of what you're doing at Clarke is about culture. Tell me something unique about that Clarke University culture for somebody that may not be familiar with Clarke University.
It's easy for me because it stands out so much. But I've been at other colleges. I've been familiar with other programs. The kind of the motto at Clarke is that it's a big enough school where you're going to definitely get out, see good competition, things like that. But it's a real family environment. When I first got there, I was walking down the hallways and people were calling me by my first name, and I thought that was a little bit odd. And then you just see that there's just such a close-knit culture at Clarke University. It's a very inclusive environment. And so it just changes things. We get people that come from all over the place that are nervous about, being, hundreds of miles away from home. And one of the first things they'll tell you is it feels like home. And it's the people there, it's the staff, it's the administration that makes you feel that way.
Now, in Dubuque, you're kind of in a unique spot as far as major sports teams go. What's your, you've got a little bit of everything, but nothing super close. What's your favorite sports team, favorite baseball team, and what does that community kind of pull for?
My favorite sports team is always the Bears. I mean, I'm a Chicago Bears fan, through and through. I know we didn't have the greatest year. I'm a Cubs fan through and through. I know we didn't have the greatest year. So that's kind of a theme right now. But it's great being where we're at because it's such a central location where we're at, where we have Green Bay fans, we have, Minnesota fans. We're not too far from, Minneapolis. We have Chicago fans. And so there's kind of a melting pot of a lot of different sports in that area. We sit right off of the Mississippi River. You go over one bridge in Illinois, you go over another bridge in Wisconsin. So, it's really diverse in terms of what people like and where you can go, what you can get to. And like I said, just being a city that sits right on the Mississippi, we have access to a lot of things up here. So yeah, it makes it
All right,
interesting.
final question. Yeah, that's great. Final question, Coach. And I've been asking this to all of the Hart coaches. Couple of words. Answer when I say Hart softball. What immediately pops in your head?
There's a lot of things that pop in my head, but the number one thing that pops in my head about the Heart of America is that you constantly hear them talking about pushing character, pushing competitiveness the right way. Those are the things that as a college athlete, those are the things that you want. We have champions of character. I'm sure you've heard about that before. Those are things that we discuss in our meetings all the time. Education is number one. That's the priority. So if you want to go somewhere and get a good collegiate experience in terms of education and athletic competition, you can't get any better than the Heart of America. 14 teams in our conference for softball. Last year, the competition in softball was so even across the board. You never knew on any given day who was going to win. And, when you start looking at academic All-Americans and people that achieve in the classroom, just school by school by school, you see positive things everywhere. That's what I think of when I think of the Heart of America.
Great answer, Coach. Coach Shirley, good luck on the season. Drive safe on your recruiting trip, and get back home and let's get that season going.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.